Let me see your body talk. Let me see your body talk. Here we go.
Welcome back to another episode of the Wolf and Badge podcast. I am Badge.
I am Wolf.
And today, I feel like is going to be one of your favorite episodes we do.
I do really like Olivia Newton-John, and I think that we don't talk about her enough in society, unless it's something to do with something bad, like she gets cancer, or she dies, or. But I mean, she has made a lot of top hits over the years, like tons. Physical, she was in Grease. I think she helped me determine that I was heterosexual. I think that was the turning point, watching Grease. So,
that sounds like a nice, fun future episode, but I'm talking about the one we're doing right now.
oh yes. So what are we doing today, Badge?
We're going to talk about one of the greatest bands of all time, known as, let me give you a drum roll here,
Metallica. I don't have, maybe we can put the music in afterwards. But
yeah, right, and they get sued. Lars would be like, they put a song in there for 5 seconds.
Yeah, dude, I don't want to fuck with all that, dude. I saw the Napster thing, which we will probably get to today. So Metallica is our topic today. If you have not heard of Metallica, you need to go back under that rock and just never come back out again, because they are an American heavy metal band. Formed in 1981 in Los Angeles by the vocalist and guitarist James Hetfield and the drummer Lars Ulrich. They're kind of based out of San Francisco, though, for most of their career, so they're considered a Bay Area band, if we're going to be real.
They are.
Known for their fast tempos, their instruments, and aggressive, musicianship. They were kind of one of the top 4 in thrash music back in the 80s.
Part of the Big Four?
They were, yep. And alongside, Megadeth, Slayer, Anthrax. But things changed with Metallica over the years, which we will get to, but they kind of evolved with the times. They're still popular today. This generation is being introduced to them. So some people will call that sellouts. Some people will call that, adaptability.
I call it doing what you need to make sure you're still making money.
They're making tons of money, man.
They are.
They've done so much over the years. They are very world famous for metal bands nowadays. That's pretty. That's not common as much
for the
anymore.
genre. Yeah,
the genre is past its heyday. So
they have sold more than 125 million records worldwide.
Jesus.
Multiple RIAA, which is Recording Industry Association of America. That's who the 125 million records are with. 66 million with Nielsen SoundScan. 58 million, which makes them the most commercially successful band of all time.
Which does not surprise me even in the slightest. Like I mentioned, Kirk Hammett is also in the band with James Hetfield and Lars Ulrich. He is the lead guitarist, and their bassist is named Robert Trujillo.
Yep.
Trujillo. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Apologize if I'm not. But yeah, heavy metal, thrash metal, speed metal, hard rock in some areas. They even dabbled into grunge for a little bit, it felt like. They've been around for, we're going on, 35 years almost? 81 is when they were founded, so...
Yeah.
They've been on many labels, Megaforce, Elektra, Warner Brothers, etc. And they've even had spin-offs from their band with Megadeth and Phantasm and other members.
And I feel like we're going to dive right into that.
Yeah, for sure.
This is going to be a fun, long episode, I think.
It might be a little bit longer, yeah, because we got a lot to say about Metallica on account of they are a huge aspect of my childhood and probably yours as well, since we had the same kind of... growing up.
Upbringing,
if you will. But let's dive into it from the beginning with Metallica. So do you have anything from their formation?
So I know I trying to find more research on it, but did you know they were called Alcoholica before Metallica?
I know that was a nickname they had. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was Alcoholica because they are major alcoholics.
Yep. Especially when this kicks off.
So it actually started in, like I said, L.A. in 81.
Yep.
Lars Ulrich is Danish, in case you couldn't tell by the fucking crazy name. Lars and Ulrich. It is, I don't know anything about Danish, so I'm sorry if you thought I was going to. I don't. He put an advertisement in a newspaper called The Recycler, which read like this. Drummer looking for other metal musicians to jam with Tigers of Pantang, Diamond Head, and Iron Maiden. Two people answered that. They were a guy named Hugh Tanner of Leather Charm, which was another band, and a guitarist named James Hetfield. Ulrich had not formed the band, but he asked Metal Blade Records founder Brian Slagel if he could record a song for a compilation album called Metal Massacre. So Slagel accepted, and Ulrich recruited Hetfield to sing and play rhythm guitar. They formed it on October 28th, 1981, 5 months after they met. So Metal Massacre was a cassette tape or compilation album released to show a bunch of bands at the time. It's all the popular underground music at the time that came out. My dad lived on the East Coast at this time, and he remembers getting these underground cassette tapes, and Metallica was on them, and
Really?
he thought it was the coolest thing in the world. To get these cassette tapes, they were kind of his thing, and he said many bands would get their start there. There would be tons of, I think, Extreme, Exodus, tons of bands like that would get their start there, and then they'd be traded. The tapes would be traded underground, and then whatever got really popular, people would start listening to, and then they would get late night radio play.
Okay.
Whether this is true or not, I have no idea. I was.
Well,
not
it
there
makes
for
sense. It makes sense. I'm sure, you probably had to go to those kind of extremes back in the 80s. You know what I mean? You don't have internet and technology.
No, it was all trading. It was all word of mouth.
That's what it is. Word of mouth. What do we got to do to do this?
And I don't entirely know where he did. I think I remember him saying they would meet at record shops. They would trade their cassette, because cassettes were the type of music at the time. And he said the cassettes, it wasn't even just that Metal Massacre one. Tons of cassettes that were just burned, kind of how we did CDs in our time.
Yep. I've burned a cassette before.
And then they would take them and, oh man, have you heard this new band? Let's trade it. Dude, this is a cool song.
Trading cards with music.
But with music.
That's so cool, dude. That'd be a cool world to live in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was just kind of and then you'd go home, you'd listen to it, and you'd be like, oh, that's fucking sweet. And then eventually, if they got popular enough, they'd do EPs, LPs, or whatever it was that they would do at the time. So, the band name, Metallica, came from Ulrich's friend, Ron Quintana, who was brainstorming names and considered Metal Mania or Metallica. Obviously, Ulrich liked the latter one, so he suggested that Quintana use Metal Mania instead so he could keep it for himself. They had an advertisement for a lead guitarist, and the person who answered that was not Kirk Hammett. It was a man named Dave Mustaine. If you don't know who Dave Mustaine is, he's a legend of heavy metal as well. And he answered the call. So Ulrich and Hetfield recruited him because this dude had some nice guitar equipment at the time. He was pretty legit.
And that's what they said. That's what sold Lars on it, was his equipment. He had pro gear. He had pro guitar. He had professional amps. Professional, everything was top notch. And he was like, "Yep, you're in."
Yeah, that helps. That saves us a lot of money. Turns out that having good gear will help you get into bands. So, all you people with no talent, buy a fucking 16-piece drum set, and you might get into a band.
Oh God, you want to piss off the sound guy?
I know, yeah. Oof. So they recruited him and recorded in early 1982 their very first original song, which was called "Hit the Lights" for the Metal Massacre compilation. Hetfield sang and played both bass and rhythm, while Lars played drums, and guitar solo was credited to a man named Lloyd Grant. I don't know who that is. It was released on June 14, 1982, and they were listed incorrectly as Metallica. So that angered the hell out of the band, obviously, because that doesn't sound half as cool as Metallica. And then the song Hit the Lights generated word of mouth, and they played their first live performance in Anaheim, California, with their new bassist, Ron McGovney.
Yep.
So, imagine, if you haven't heard Hit the Lights, what would you describe Hit the Lights as?
It's a pure thrash song.
Yeah, I would go with that. Like, it's like, it starts off like a fade in, like it's a, like,
yeah, right in.
It is. It's the very first song on their Kill 'Em All album. I loved it growing up. It would get you just pumped up.
It's a hell of a way to open an album.
Yeah, it is. And it's the way they opened up their whole damn career. Their live success came really, really, like, quick. They were chosen to open for a British heavy metal band at one gig of their tour called Saxon is the name of the band. So if you haven't heard of Saxon, which I am not a huge knowledgeable mouthpiece for Saxon, but it is a heavy metal band that my dad would probably know more about. Have you ever heard of them at all or listened to anything? Because I don't know anything about them.
Nope.
They released a demo after that called Power Metal, and it was inspired by early business cards from Quintana. Power Metal was the demo, and it had 4 songs on it. Just 4. It had Hit the Lights. It had a second song called Jump in the Fire.
Love that song.
Which, yeah, dude, so good. That was apparently Mustaine wrote that one. The Mechanics, which would later come back as a different name, which would later become the Four Horsemen.
The Four Horsemen. Yep.
And Motor Breath, which was Hetfield's song, which I love Motor Breath too. It's just like a thrashy, like driving song. So the term thrash metal was coined in '84 by a journalist in reference to Anthrax's song Metal Thrashing Mad. But prior to that, Metallica referred to their sound as power metal, which is why they got that sound, or that's the name of their song, or album. In late '82, they attended a show at the club, which was in West Hollywood. You might know this name from all the rock stars hung out here. It's called the Whiskey A Go Go.
The Whiskey A Go Go.
Yep. Which they watched a band called Trauma, which had a bassist named Cliff Burton. Now that's going to come back a little bit later. The two were just blown away by Burton's use of the wah pedal and asked him to join Metallica. So McGovney was like, dude, get the fuck out, McGovney. We don't need you no more. And they picked up Burton instead because they thought that McGovney didn't really contribute anything to the band. He was just kind of a follower.
He was just there.
So Burton said no. Turns out like Burton had a good thing going with Trauma. And by the end of the year, he decided to finally accept on the condition that they moved to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Yep.
So this
and
is
where they plant their seed in San Francisco.
Yeah. So they did a nightclub at the Stone, and then their first recording featuring Burton was the Megaforce demo they did in '83. So with that, how do you feel about Metallica at this point? I don't know anything about
Sounds like a starter band, you know what I mean? It just sounds like it's what it sounds like. It sounds like dudes who know what they have, and it just sounds like they're just trying to find the pieces to fully contribute and make the final product that they're looking for. So, especially being that early in the stage, I mean, like a lot of bands likely do go through quite a few member changes. So, I think the pack up and move.
Is that a good
to be
idea?
impressed by a bass player and Cliff was great. He's one of the greatest bass players of all time. So I thought it was a wise move. It's a ballsy move.
It's
because
risky.
My thing is like you're pretty much you are obsessed with this guy, but now you're kind of appeasing to this guy's demands. There was no like meet in the middle. You know, it was like, well, if you want me to do it, you're coming here, and everyone's like, okay, you know. So they all did.
And it's really risky in the sense of LA. I feel like would be the music capital of the West Coast, right? Like like San Francisco, I've never heard of like being as a musictopia area. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know enough about that. So anyone who's listening that's like, dude, you don't know shit about San Francisco, I'm sorry. We're just going with what we know. So they were ready to record their debut, and Metal Blade was unable to cover the cost, so they began looking for other options. They met a concert promoter named Jonathan Zazula, also known as Johnny Z, who heard the demo of theirs called No Life Till Leather, and that was made in '82. He offered to broker a deal between them and a New York-based record label, and after those record labels showed no interest, he borrowed enough money to cover the recording budget and signed them to his own label called Megaforce Records.
With a budget of $15,000.
Holy Is that a lot or a little? I guess on that,
Well, in the 80s, that's
quite a bit. Isn't it?
nowadays, I swear I saw something on it. I think it said nowadays it's almost damn near $45,000, almost $50,000
to get like the whole thing recorded.
Yeah.
Jesus, man, like what the hell?
I
mean, makes sense.
You could have one hell of an album, like nowadays.
That's a risk, though. You got to put the money
grand.
down for
Yeah,
it.
here's $50,000. Like, you would sound impeccable with dropping $50,000 on an album.
Yeah. How much have you dropped on your albums, Eric? Has it been $50,000 yet?
No, not even.
Not yet. No. Well, in May they decided to travel to Rochester, New York, to record their debut album, and it was going to be called "Metal Up Your Ass." I used to have a T-shirt that had that "Metal Up Your Ass." It's like a toilet with a hand and a knife coming out of it. Thought it was the coolest thing. The other members decided at this point to eject a member from the band because of his drugs and alcohol abuse and his violent behavior just before they went to record. Which member was that, Eric?
That'd be Dave Mustaine.
Badge. Sorry, guys. I'm trying. I know him as Eric outside of here, but Badge. Yeah, Dave Mustaine was ejected from it.
Can you imagine that? And they were on the road when they did it.
Yeah, I'd be pretty pissed.
Like, they were literally, like, they're from California. They're, like, practically to New York, and they're like, you gotta go. Like, the fuck?
Yeah, what the hell you mean we gotta go? We drove all the way to Rochester.
Like, we're on the other side of the country, and now you decide that? And if you know the story, it was pretty bad. They had an issue. You know what I mean?
Well, apparently he was doing a lot of drugs and alcohol, but that being said, Alcoholica, as they are known, was no angels themselves.
Right,
so.
They weren't. And that was the biggest dispute that Dave Mustaine had. He says, you guys kicked me out for something that we were all doing. Like, why did it get taken out on me? But there are, maybe
stories
he
of
was
violent
just
behaviors and stuff. Like, if you can handle your alcohol and you're just a drunk mess puking on the floor, might be better than someone punching you in the back of the head constantly.
Because he was very violent. Yeah. But you know what? It worked out for him in the end because
it did.
He's in the top. He's in that big four.
He's still remembered, yeah. So they had to replace him that same afternoon, and it looks like they probably already had someone lined up because they were able to replace him in one afternoon with a guitarist from the band Exodus, who Exodus obviously did not get as popular as Metallica over the years, but they were very big in the underground scene at the time. His name was Kirk Hammett, like we had mentioned earlier. He's still with the band, and Kirk came in, and they played together for the first time in New Jersey at a place called the Show Place in 1983, and he's stayed with them ever since. So, Mustaine went on to form a different band. He went on to form something called Megadeth, which there's a huge fight in the rock sector about
who's better.
Who's better, yeah.
And I will tell you, my family was the Megadeth spectrum.
Which it's kind of like the anti-establishment pick, I feel like. I think people like to say that. And people just think Megadeth is more talented because Dave Mustaine is a very talented man.
He is very, very talented.
I wouldn't say his singing is the best. I feel like it's unique, though, enough to, like, Dave Mustaine singing when he's singing. He's almost, like, talking like, hello, me. Meet the real me. Yeah. Like, it's very, like it sounds like a crazy-ass person. Mustaine did found Megadeth, and he expressed his dislike for Hammett after the fact, saying he stole his job. Like, he was not happy. I don't know.
Which is funny, because, like, I mean, I understand you're upset that you got replaced, but, like, Hammett probably had no idea. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I don't know the full story.
Well, it sounds like he got really pissed because Hammett he became popular by playing the guitar leads that Mustaine had written.
Yeah.
Like, that would make me mad.
And I know that, and in the first two albums of Megadeth are aimed for his, like, anger towards the guys in Metallica. I can't remember if it's first two or first four albums. I know it was a long period of time where you're like, you gonna let this go? Like, you're not gonna let it go?
Yeah, well, in an 85 interview with Metal Force, he said, it's real funny how Kirk Hammett ripped off every lead break I played on that No Life Till Leather tape. And he got voted number one guitarist in your magazine. Mm-hmm. So he felt like he was not getting his...
Someone else took his spotlight.
Yeah, it was his music. He wrote that stuff. So he was a little bit touchy with it. I can't blame him for that. And then his debut came out in 85 with Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good, which included the song Mechanics because he did write it. Metallica had already reworked and retitled it, but he kept it as well because it was his song.
So the backstory on that, I actually just watched a video on this the other day, as out as it is. But the reason it was changed is, or he kept it the way it was because when they were in the initial point of recording, Lars complained that they were playing it too fast. Because if you've ever heard Mechanics, it's played very fast. It is legit the Four Horsemen, with obviously new lyrics now, but it's just played it's a lot faster. And apparently that's what he said, is Lars complained that they were playing it too fast, so they cut like a quarter of the tempo out to make the Four Horsemen.
Really?
Yep.
Well, that makes sense because like he did write the music, and it would have been his like riff that they would have used.
Yep. Because literally, it's the solo and everything is all his. Because both songs are the exact same except for a few minor. Like he adds the little weird intro for Mechanics before it kicks in.
Okay, yeah, I guess I don't remember I've only listened a few times. I do know the Four Horsemen though, which is one of my favorite Metallica songs of all time, just because it holds meaning to me in a sense. But yeah, because of the conflicts with the record label and the distributor's refusal to release an album titled Metal Up Your Ass, getting back to Metallica that is, the album was renamed to something different called Kill 'Em All. Because that's much better than Metal Up Your Ass, right? Like, there's children watching, James. We have to have Kill 'Em All. It was released on Megaforce Records and on Music for Nations in Europe, and it peaked at like 155 on the Billboard 286. So, not really a financial success, you would say, but they did get a growing fan base for the underground metal scene.
I mean, it worked out.
Yeah, they're gonna blow up eventually.
So the what I have for that is the top 2 songs on this album. So I know you'd spoke previously on the EPs and demos, but back then, or now we call them singles, and those are the songs that stand out. Now it's kind of easier to do it because you're just like, here's a single, and then bam, here's the album.
A-side, B-side back then.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the 2 songs off of the album when they released Kill 'Em All were Whiplash and Jump in the Fire.
God, I love both those songs.
Yep, they're both great songs. My personal favorites from that album are Four Horsemen, obviously.
I was going to ask what your favorites were.
Hit the Lights and Seek and Destroy.
I do like Seek and Destroy. I feel like that was the first one I really liked off that album, and nowadays it's not one of my favorites, but I do like it a lot.
That album sold a total, to kick off at release, 60,000 copies, or they sold 60,000 copies by 1984, and that album specifically went 3 times platinum by 99.
Yeah, so it definitely, eventually it's going to come back around and get really famous again.
Yep.
You ask any Metallica fan, and I don't know really any that don't like any of the like older Metallica fans for sure. Like Kill 'Em All is one of their favorites because it's the rawest of all of them.
Yeah,
like it's so raw. It feels like it was just it hits you in the mouth and it doesn't quit. The whole album is just like banger after banger after banger after banger. Like
it's very fast too.
It is. It's just a complete thrash album. Like it is like the epitome of thrash albums. I feel like one of them. Eventually, they would record their second studio album in Denmark, actually. So from February to March of 84, they do their second album. It is called Ride the Lightning, which is becoming more popular nowadays. I know Fortnite was using some stuff on Ride the Lightning recently. It reached number 100. So it was taken initially better than Kill 'Em All. And then, like, if you've ever seen the cover art of Ride the Lightning, it's like an electric chair in like a blue. Is it like a blue background, like a dark blue?
It's like a dark blue
with the lightning strikes and stuff. It is so badass.
The lightning's coming from the band logo, striking the chair.
It's so cool.
And I read on it. It's actually they took the idea from a famous French painter. Like someone was obsessed with some of that dude's work. Okay. So that's kind of what helped them decide what they wanted for that.
Oh, it's one of my favorite album covers of all time.
It's sick.
And actually, a French printing press mistakenly printed green covers for that album, which are now considered collector's items, if you can find the green ones. So any of you guys that are out there like collectors, that's something to hunt for. Now, Dave Mustaine did have 2 writing credits on the album. He did help write the songs The Call of Cthulhu.
Love that song.
And Ride the Lightning itself. He helped write those.
You know, that's funny because that's Kirk Hammett's favorite song.
Is it really? Well,
Yeah.
I don't think Kirk Hammett probably hates Dave Mustaine the same way.
Right, he doesn't. And that's where, like I said, that's weird. Like when you throw that fact out there, it's like I feel like that's like a one-sided hate thing, and it's just mainly because Kirk was like gifted this opportunity, and Dave's just like, this piece of shit. You know what I mean?
Dave's just feeling like hurt. Like,
Yeah.
dude, like the fuck.
But
are you
I
doing?
feel like he's taking his anger out on the wrong person.
Yeah, honestly, it should be the rest of the band, which I'm sure he hated just as equally. But luckily, when they were on concert, they impressed certain people, which helped them. It was the A&R director Michael Alago and co-founder of Q Prime Management Cliff Bernstein saw them and signed them to Elektra Records. Now, Elektra is a lot bigger than the Megaforce that they were using prior to that, and made them a client of their management team. And then they started releasing their singles, including Creeping Death, which, if you ever hear the song, it's like about the plagues of Egypt. It's awesome. I wish we could play it on here, but we're going to try to avoid any type of lawsuits or anything. They also did cover. Two of the three songs on the record were cover versions of Diamond Head's Am I Evil, which awesome as well, and Blitzkrieg's Blitzkrieg, which I love that song as well. They appeared on the reissue of Kill 'Em All, though they weren't on the Ride the Lightning.
The original. Yeah.
That was the first time when they were able to embark on a huge European tour with a band called Tank, and the average crowd was about 1,300. They would return to the U.S. and embark on a co-headlining tour with Wasp and support from Armored Saint, another two big bands at the time. And then they would even play at the Monsters of Rock Festival in England with Bon Jovi and Rat. And that was when they played to 70,000. So they're starting to get big.
Yep. That album specifically sold 500,000 copies by 87.
Jeez, that's so good.
To give you an idea of how fast from first album to second album, how popular they were starting to get, like just like that.
Like Ride the Lightning might be my favorite album of all time. I like it better than Kill 'Em All. It's still thrashy,
sure.
but it feels more like accessible to the public. Not as raw, more refined. That eventually turns into their third studio album, which is, I would have to say, one of their most famous of their early years, which is Master of Puppets.
That's my favorite album.
Recorded at Sweet Silence Studios from September to December 85, released in March of 86. It reached number 29 on the Billboard 200, 72 weeks on the chart.
6-time platinum album.
So yeah, this was a real fucking album. Like, not that the others weren't, but Steve Huey of All Music considered the album the band's greatest achievement. Following the release of the album, they supported Ozzy on tour. Hetfield broke his wrist while he was skateboarding like a dumbass, and he continued with the tour performing vocals while someone else played guitar. Now, with that, what is your favorite off of Master of Puppets?
Master of Puppets.
I mean, obviously Master of Puppets is good, which it's
real
good.
It is. It's such a good album. It's hard for me to pick one off of there. I feel like the one though that I kind of, because you kind of have sometimes you're just like, I'm just not feeling it. I think the one song that I really never find myself skipping is actually Leper Messiah.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know what it is about that song, but I love that song.
It is a good song. I think my favorite's probably Battery. I really like Battery a lot.
Battery's a good one too.
I got
it still
to see that
kept
one
that
live.
thrash feeling.
It did. It pumps me up. Another one that started going into the ballads where you kind of see a shift in Metallica's music form was Sanitarium.
Yep.
Or Welcome Home Sanitarium.
Welcome Home Sanitarium.
Yeah. So
yep.
I love that one too. That's a really good one.
Let's just not discredit Orion.
Yeah.
I like that song because there's no vocals in it. It is just a pure. It's a musician vibe fest, I should say. It's just you're just playing your instrument and you're just zoned away. I feel like
I feel like they have one on every album because I think Call of Cthulhu doesn't have any.
Is too, yeah.
And then you have Anesthesia Pulling Teeth on Kill 'Em All with Cliff Burton's bass solo, which I always loved. I believe that's Kill 'Em All. So they did a Damage Incorporated tour, which is another great song, Damage Incorporated. They drew cards to determine which bunks on the tour bus they would sleep in. Burton won. He chose to sleep in Hammett's bunk, and at around sunrise near the town of Dorarp, Sweden, the bus driver did lose control, and he skidded, which caused the bus to overturn a few times. Everyone was fine without injuries except for one, which was Cliff Burton, who was pinned under the bus, and he did die.
the bus rolled over top of him. Can you imagine that? You're just sleeping, and then, like, if you get the chance to wake up for an instinct, or like even for that instant second that you were awake, that was like your last second. Like that's such a gruesome.
Yeah. How would you feel being Kirk Hammett knowing that he took your bunk too?
Yeah, like that should have in the reality of the situation, and that's what Kirk
all because he drew
says
that
too.
card.
Yeah, he's like that should have been me.
Yeah, that would haunt you for life, I feel like. No, James Hetfield did say, this is his words, quote, "I saw the bus lying right on him. I saw his legs sticking out. I freaked. The bus driver, I recall, was trying to yank the blanket out from under him to use for other people. I just went, don't fucking do that. I already wanted to kill the driver. I don't know if he was drunk or if he hit some ice. All I knew was he was driving and Cliff wasn't alive anymore." End quote.
Yeah.
So this changes Metallica.
Yeah, this is obviously
this is like the end of that era of their early days. They lost someone they love. It's not the end of Metallica in itself, but it is the end of Cliff. So it left their future in doubt. Like, we don't know, is Metallica going to keep going at this point? I don't know what it was like in 86, I think is when that happened.
Yeah.
But I'm sure a lot of people were wondering, like, is this the end of the band? The three remaining members did decide that Burton would want them to carry on, though. And with his family's blessings, they sought a replacement. They did go through roughly like 40 people to try and figure out who was going to replace the great Cliff Burton. Kirk Hammett's childhood friend, Les Claypool of Primus, was in the running, which he's fucking great, too. Like, let's be real, he's a great bassist. Another finalist was Troy Gregory of Prong. And then another one was the former bassist of Flotsam and Jetsam, Jason Newsted. They all auditioned for the band to fill his spot. Newsted learned the entire set list. So they invited him to join and decided he was going to be the replacement for Cliff Burton.
So before you go into that, I don't know if you know this, but Newstead is from Hastings.
Really?
It says Battle Creek because Hastings isn't a popular enough city, so that's the nearest, like, kind of bigger city is that. But his brother actually teaches at the high school.
Really? That's super cool.
Yep, and actually his son just opened up a record shop in Grand Rapids. Yep. So
you learn something every day.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Well, maybe we'll have to get him in.
Yeah.
If we ever were able to. The members would initiate Newstead by tricking him into eating a ball of wasabi.
Ugh.
Which, if you've ever had wasabi, dude, you're gonna be like snots pouring out your nose, dude. Wasabi is a different kind of spice. It's not like a hot sauce. I've never had any type of spice like wasabi. It's just completely different.
I've had wasabi one time and I spit that shit right out.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not a wasabi guy. No way. That stuff it's different.
Yeah, I don't even. Yeah, I don't eat a whole lot of wasabi unless I'm eating sushi. If I'm eating sushi, wasabi all day, man.
Okay.
God, those kids are so loud.
It's okay.
All right, we're gonna keep going though. After Newstead joined Metallica, the band left their El Cerrito practice space, and also known as the Metalli Mansion, and relocated to the cities of Berkeley and Albany before eventually settling in the Marin County of San Rafael in North San Francisco. Hetfield would break his wrist again while skateboarding in March of '87, and they had to cancel their Saturday Night Live appearance because of it. So they would do an all-covers EP, extended play, titled The 598 EP Garage Days Revisited. It was an effort to use their newly constructed recording studio and also to test Newstead, see how he held up against the wall, and then also to make sure that they could relive their grief and stress following the death of Burton, obviously. They would do a video titled Cliff 'Em All later, which would commemorate Burton's 3 years with Metallica. They released that in '87. So the first album that they're going to do, though, after Cliff Burton, and with Jason Newsted's first album, was called Injustice for All.
Such a good album, dude.
Which, yeah, they recorded that from January to May of '88. So they take a year later, they record it, release it in September. Huge commercial success. It takes number 6 on the Billboard 200, first album to enter the top 10.
8-time platinum album. And
Really?
so I know I keep throwing the platinum, 8-time platinum. So for people that don't know, platinum means 1 million copies sold. So that means that within that short time frame, they sold 8 million copies.
Damn. That is a lot of copies. And this one did get some. So, like, now we're going to start seeing the differences in Metallica. Now we're going to start getting some people that are complaining about them. This is the first one where that really starts. Some people thought that the drums were clicking more than thudding. The guitars were buzzed thinly.
That's the truth. So, story behind Injustice for All, the sound guy was aware that there was no punch, so he would turn it up, and apparently Lars would get off of his kit and he would walk up to the dude's soundboard and pull everything down. He's like, "This is how I want it to sound," and the guy goes, "It sounds, dead. There's no life behind it." And he goes, "Whose album is this? Your album or my album?"
Sounds like
He was trying to like this. The production or the producer was trying to find like a happy medium, but Lars fought him on it. He said, "Look, dude, if you touch those again," he goes, "we're out of here." So that's why the drums sound that way. So for anybody getting mad, like, be mad at Lars for the sound of the drums on that album.
Oh, and I think they probably
Yeah.
will. They do go on a tour called Damaged Justice, which I would have loved to have been on that tour. They did receive their first Grammy nomination as well for this one, in the new best hard rock metal performance vocal or instrument category. They were actually the favorite to win, but they didn't. It was given to Jethro Tull for their album Crest of a Knave. Yeah. The award was controversial with fans and the press. Metallica was standing off stage waiting to receive the award after performing their song called One, which, if you've not heard One, awesome song about veterans.
Go back under your rock.
Yeah. Jethro Tull had been advised by the manager not to even attend the ceremony because he was expecting Metallica to win it, and they didn't. It was one of the biggest Grammy upsets of all time.
That's crazy. What a weird time.
Yeah, like they were like, "What the hell? Jethro Tull beat us?" Which, nothing against Jethro Tull, I'm not a huge fan, but like, it was not expected at the time. So, following the release, they released their debut music video as well for the song called One. They performed it in an abandoned warehouse, mixed it with the film Johnny Got His Gun, which is, if you don't know, that's a 71 like independent anti-war film.
Yep.
And then they submitted to MTV with an alternative performance-only version as well that was held back in case they banned their remixed one. But they accepted it, and the video was the first exposure for people who watched MTV to Metallica.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, one of the biggest music videos of all time. It was in 1999. It was voted number 38 in MTV's top 100 videos of all time countdown. So, huge video. And they would go on in 1990 to enter one-on-one recording studio in North Hollywood to record their next album with a man named Bob Rock. If you don't know who Bob Rock is, do you know who Bob Rock is?
I have no idea.
So he's like a record producer, sound engineer, musician. He's done, obviously, Metallica, but like Motley Crue, Aerosmith, 311, Bon Jovi, The Offspring, Bryan Adams, Michael Bublé.
Oh, wow.
He's done a lot of people. Black Veil Brides, David Lee Roth. He's all over the place. So they decided he was going to be the producer. And they were going to do a new album called Metallica. Just Metallica. And It's also known as
The Black Album.
The Black Album, which was remixed 3 times and cost over $1 million to make and ended Kirk Hammett's marriage as well as Lars Ulrich's marriage.
Did it really?
Yeah. So a lot of sacrifices for this album, but they wouldn't be for nothing. So the release was delayed until 1991, but it did debut at number 1 in 10 countries. So what is your favorite stuff from the Black Album?
For me, so I know a lot of people's favorites are like Enter Sandman and all that. You know what I mean? For me, I like the raunchier, heavier songs that I know because this
Raunchy,
album.
I love it.
This album was I know we talked about and Justice for All being very controversial, but this for me feels like this was a bigger one, and that was just around people that I talked to. So so my favorite song off this one is a mix up between Of Wolf and Man and The God That Failed. Those are probably my two.
Okay.
And I know they're not nearly as popular.
I love Of Wolf and Man. I'm Wolf. I love it. So,
but this album alone was like their sellout album because it was way different than what everyone was used to them putting out. You know what I mean? It wasn't as thrashy. It wasn't as upbeat. There was a lot more rhythm established, and the singing gets a little bit more clear. It's not as raspy for a lot of the more popular songs like Enter Sandman and all that stuff. So, and I actually talked to my cousin about a year ago. He said he heard Enter Sandman because that was the first single released for that album.
Yeah, Enter Sandman.
And he refused to listen to it. He said once I heard that, he goes, I've never listened to any new Metallica. And I go,
missing out on so much.
I was like, are you kidding me? Like, and he was like, but that was a sting. He was that Metallica's thrash. What is this shit that they're putting out? So
that's going to be the time when people are like, they sold out. Yeah. This is the sellout period to a lot of people. The album came with, like you said, Enter Sandman, huge album. Everyone knows that song. Probably their most popular song, one of at least. Sad But True, which has been sampled many times.
Nothing Else Matters.
Nothing Else Matters. Beautiful song.
Wherever I May Roam.
I think my sister did Nothing Else Matters, like the sound, like someone played guitar at her wedding, and that's what she walked down the aisle to.
Really?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Actually, the guy who did it, his name's Chris Jones, I believe, and he does music still today. He's from A Dark Halo. So
okay.
Yeah. So he had recorded that and for them, and it was like a slow down version. But like even My Friend in Misery, which isn't as well received, I love that one.
I love that song, dude.
I do too. It's just great.
This is all around just a good. It's
Through
a good
the Never.
Song. Through the Never, and that's what I was trying to.
Don't Tread on Me.
I did a post about that. I said, like, you guys say it's missing the threat. Listen to Through the Never. Through the Never has a very old school thrashy. Listen to that song. Like, no, don't just discard the album because of Enter Sandman.
So much good on that album. I love it. And then they would go on and even perform, I don't know if you've heard it, Stone Cold Crazy with the remaining members of Queen and Tony Iommi. They did that one later. That's not on the album, but that's just a great song.
Yeah.
1992 was a big year for them as well because they would co-headline a stadium tour with Guns N' Roses, which during that tour, James Hetfield would suffer second and third degree burns to his arms from the pyrotechnics.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that.
Yeah, it's a huge setup. There had been some confusion with it, which resulted in him walking into a 12-foot flame during the Fade to Black song. Apparently, Newsted said his skin was bubbling like on the Toxic Avenger. So, I've never seen someone get burned like that.
That'd be horrific, dude. I couldn't imagine watching that happen.
He returned to the stage 17 days later. So, someone else replaced him on guitar, obviously, for the remaining of the tour, but he was still singing. So, kudos to you, James, because you tore it up. And then they went on the Nowhere Else to Roam tour, playing 5 shows in Mexico City. They did a box set after this in 93 called Live Shit, Binge and Purge, which, that's classic Alcoholica. Binge and Purge. Come on, man. Like, what the fuck is that name? But I did know someone who had that box set, and it was pretty sweet watching all the videos and stuff. So that's kind of an end of an era for them. This is like when they peaked, I would say. This is their peak.
It makes sense because this is the longest gap between an album to album that they've had, because usually it's like a 1 to 2 years new album, and then this one, I mean, what was that, 91? Their next one doesn't even come out until what?
94, I think. Well, yeah, because they tour for like 3 years.
Yeah, because that's how it's 96 actually.
They headlined Woodstock 94.
Yeah.
So they eventually go and write their 6th studio album, which is called Load. So a lot of people, this is where they start changing a lot, not just like a little bit. Load debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, and it was their second number 1 album. The cover art, if you've ever seen the Load cover and the Reload, it is called Blood and Semen 3.
Jesus Christ.
It was created by a guy named Andres Serrano, who just pressed a mixture of his own semen and blood between sheets of plexiglass. That's what that is.
Really? I didn't know that.
It looks like fire, but it's actually just semen and blood.
That's crazy,
Yeah,
dude.
it's pretty gross.
No wonder they used it for 2 albums. How
Yeah,
much
they're
that
like,
cost
fuck,
you?
dude, this is so much semen and blood, man. What are we going to do with all the semen and blood? Yeah. It changed their whole musical direction, though. Let's be real. They cut their hair at this point. Like, their hair's gone. They evolved with the times. Grunge came, knocked the fuck out of, like we had mentioned, glam metal and all that stuff when we were talking about our Kurt Cobain episode. They knocked the hell out of, like, even the thrash stuff wasn't as big now. Load was a commercial success. It was a success. They headlined Lollapalooza in '96.
So Until It Sleeps is on that album.
Yes.
And that is actually the first Metallica song I had ever heard.
Really?
Yeah.
That's about his, I believe, mom's cancer?
Yep. And when I had moved here, we had just moved into our apartment. Well, when I moved to Springport, because I'm naturally from Springport. We were in the apartment, and I started meeting, kids. And the kid that lived downstairs was like, why don't you come inside for a little bit, blah, blah, blah. And we were playing, and his dad was watching MTV, and that was the music video playing. I just remember... I remember a guy sitting in a chair, and there's a python, and it's just like a bunch of weird stuff, and I'm just watching it, and that was that was the first song I ever heard. And
really,
yeah,
it's also like The Unforgiven was on the Black Album, but
The
Unforgiven I think 2 came on, maybe Reload. That might be Reload. But Load had House Jack Built, 2x4, Ain't My Bitch, King Nothing is probably my favorite one from there.
Me too.
But no, Load was a very big deal to me. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I know a lot of people don't. But they made so many songs during that time, they had to do a second album too, which was Reload.
Yep.
And apparently, excuse me for what I said earlier, it was not blood and semen on the second one. It was blood and urine the second time around because they classed it up a little bit, put a little piss in there. That one debuted at #1 as well. And, I mean, if you've heard Reload, not my favorite album. I liked Load much better, but they did have certain songs that were big, such as Fuel, which has gotten really popular.
Dude, listen. So when we were messing around in the band in 8th grade, I'm not going to say his name on here, but there was a kid that was obsessed with Metallica, and I think you know who I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. JP.
Yep.
And every time we would play Fuel, he would get pissed. And he would physically punch us. Until we turned, and that would irritate the hell out of me because I didn't understand. I was like, "This is a good song." So what he's like, "This is Metallica." I'm like, "Dude, you're like,
this is late Metallica." Yeah,
you're 13. You know what I mean?
Dude. You don't know anything about Metallica. And The Memory Remains is on there too, which was another famous one. So yeah, go ahead.
There's another song on there that I actually discovered. I never really listened to like Load and Reload front to back. You know what I mean? I'm just like, not interested. But there was a song introduced to me about 2 years ago called Slither that's on this album.
Slither's good. Don't go looking for snakes, you might find
But
them.
to me, I feel like that song, I'm surprised it didn't get more popular because it is legit Enter Sandman played backwards. Like the initial riff, if you listen to it, it is legit. The
I could see that.
It's like a weird backwards version of that riff. So I'm surprised that song didn't get more traction because, like I said, I'd never even heard of it, and I was like, dude, this song is badass. I've never heard of this song.
Dude, there's some good ones on there. Like I think Prince Charming's on there.
Yep.
I got to hear that one live, which is very rare apparently.
Carpe diem, baby.
Yeah, like our buddy Brandon back in school, dude. Oh, he didn't even care for the thrash stuff as much. I felt like he only listened to Load and Reload. So, and then he'd like drink a fifth of whatever it was and be like, dude, this one just speaks to me.
He got a tattooed on his spine.
He did. He got Carpe Diem, on his spine. I'm like, you motherfucker. I remember.
His first tattoo ever.
Yeah, down in Jersey when we went for vacation. We'll have to talk about that sometime. But yeah, motherfucker couldn't even drive the way back. Fucking asshole. So Metallica kind of eventually goes into 1998, and they decide to compile a double album of cover songs. Mm-hmm. This one really pisses people off, like that I talk to nowadays. They're like, I hate that album. Honestly, love it. I loved it because it's just covers. It's not their own. It's called Garage Inc. It's like a garage band.
And they put it's a twist of Metallica. Like it's heavy. It's these songs that are very popular, or some of them aren't even popular. Because there's quite a few songs that like I've really never heard of. So, I mean, granted, that could just because of my lack of musical knowledge, I guess.
What songs?
As far as what? Like, I don't know?
On the Garage Inc. album, yeah.
I don't know. There's so many. Like, Free Speech for the Dumb, Sabra Cadabra.
Oh, dude, Sabra Cadabra.
I don't know. There's more on here that I've never heard of than there's. Like, the only songs on that album that I know would be Turn the Page.
God, so good.
Die, Die, My Darling.
Misfits.
Merciful Fate.
That's a band.
Huh?
Merciful Fate's a band.
Right, but that's
that
a
who
song
did
they
it?
cover too.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah. And then Whiskey in the Jar, and as weird as this, well, you got Stone Cold Crazy, and then you have a song called The Wait. The Wait I actually discovered from School of Rock.
I don't know that one, I don't think.
The Wait?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's in school. You know this movie School of Rock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When he's in the van, he's getting the idea to start bringing all the instruments and stuff in.
Yeah.
You know, that's
I
the
guess I
song
didn't
that's
realize
playing.
that.
It's like, dan. I want to play it for you right now, but I know I can't. Like, I'm about to.
No, that's all right.
Yeah.
No,
then-
they have a lot on there. Whiskey in a Jar got really big. That's a
Yep.
Thin Lizzy song.
Yep.
An old pirate ditty. Sabra Cadabra is a Black Sabbath song, by the way. Die, Die, My Darling was great. Bread Fan. God, that album is so good. I love it. But I know some people don't. But cool idea for them to just do a bunch of covers.
Yeah,
Kinda-
because they made it their own. That's the coolest thing about
did.
what they did there was they took a song and they said, let's Metallica it. And that's exactly what they did. You know what I mean? They made it metal. They made all those songs metal.
And they experiment with stuff. So by 1999, they decided to experiment again with the San Francisco Symphony by
Yep.
doing S&M, which I don't know if you've ever listened to anything off there. It's pretty cool. Not my favorite album, but it's pretty cool. Like that they were able to do that.
Yeah. They do introduce though. So usually when they did that, they did all the old popular songs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it was cool that they were actually able to create their own song doing that too.
Human? Was it
No
called
Leaf
Human?
Clover.
Well, No Leaf Clover. Yeah, that's a good one too. I forgot about that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was an awesome one.
That's the only song, just me personally, that's the only song that I'm like, I can listen to that song and like
That's a
enjoy
beautiful
it.
song,
You know what I mean?
And they did Ecstasy of Gold too from the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I think they did that one. And then in 2000, they would go on to just do another song for a movie, Mission Impossible 2. You know that one. It's the greatest
Yep.
movie of all time, according to nobody ever.
I love that song. Dude.
I Disappear, which
Yep.
I did get to hear them play that one live too, which was really
That's
kinda
cool. I heard that's rare. I heard they don't play that.
Yeah, they
one
did
that
not
often.
play that. They said that during when I saw them too. Received tons of radio airplay at the time. The thing with the song I Disappear, they discovered in 2000 that a demo of it, which was supposed to be released, found the file on the Napster peer-to-peer file sharing network.
Oh, here we go.
And
Yep.
they found that their entire catalog was freely available. Now,
Yep.
if you weren't around in that time frame and you didn't know anything about music, pirating music was just what we did. At least
Everybody did that.
Yeah, LimeWire would destroy your parents' computer.
How many computers did your mom go through?
Dude, at least two. At least two. But we usually destroyed Brandon's parents' computer. Which we went through at least two there too. Like, dude, we screwed up their computer with LimeWire.
Yeah.
We were downloading that. We were downloading.
That's what we did, dude. We
Videos.
were CDs. That's what we were doing.
Yeah, you could
dude.
find anything on there. Instead of it saying like, "Hey, here's No Leaf Clover," it'd say, "Hey, here's S&M 4-leaf clover." Blah blah blah. Like they wouldn't know what to call them. Like one would be like, "Here's an unforgivable like YouTube video that we saw and found on there." Like that you could find anything on LimeWire, or I guess Napster was one like that. I didn't use Napster personally, but Metallica filed a lawsuit alleging that they violated 3 areas of the law: copyright infringement,
Yep.
unlawful use of digital audio interface device, and the RICO Act, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act. So they went after them.
So, well, you say Metallica, and what a lot of people don't really understand, I don't feel, is it was Lars. Lars initiated
Lars
all
was pissed,
of this.
yeah.
Lars was the most pissed out of everybody.
They provided a statement to the Senate Judiciary Committee in July, and federal judge Marilyn Hall Patel ordered the site to place a filter on the program within 72 hours and be shut down. they reached a settlement when the media conglomerate Bertelsmann showed interest in purchasing the rights to Napster for $94 million. They agreed to block users who shared music by artists who did not want their music shared. So they filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy by 2002. You won't hear about Napster anymore. Under U.S. bankruptcy laws, they filed, and they blocked sale of Napster to Bertelsmann and forced Napster to liquidate its assets. So Napster is no more. Metallica took down Napster. That being said, not a great idea to start bitching about your fans getting your music, because that kind of pissed off quite a bit of people too. It made them look whiny, honestly. At least I remember that's what the thought process was in the time. I remember people making fun of them, like, dude, come on, guys. Like, it's like the sharing the cassettes my dad used to do.
Yeah,
like
trading music back in the day.
We're
like,
sharing your music. You're getting more fans.
Yeah, you may not be seeing the. I mean, you're at that point too. You're already seeing so much money. What the hell does it matter? You guys are already millionaires at this point in time. Well, you guys are top of the rich. You are one of the. You at that point you already are a very rich. Like, that's all I got. You know, I mean, you're top of the game. I don't understand why something as small as Napster. I mean, I get it.
How are they going to afford their fourth house, Eric?
Yeah,
do you even care about them?
I know. Do I even care? But for me, I feel like at that point it would be more important to spread the name, and like you're allowing more people, especially with people who are like in lower income. Maybe they were the young me. I could never afford it. My mom, like, I a single mom. You know what I mean? I didn't get a lot of that stuff, so some of the stuff did come free. So that, like, anytime I had an opportunity, like, that was like I can actually fit in with everybody because I'm able to have access to that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Now, but I don't know. And I get it. So your music's being put out there. It's not being paid for. You feel like you're getting robbed. But when you're on top of the food chain, like, what does it matter that a few people down low are, grabbing your songs? So, I don't know. I get it. I get where they're coming from. At the same time, I was that poor kid who looked forward to being able to access all that.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the few missteps Metallica's made in their career. They're very smart with how they've done their career, but this is not one that went well. And actually, at the 2000 MTV Music Video Awards, Ulrich appeared in a skit with host Marlon Wayans, and they criticized the idea of using Napster to share music. So Marlon Wayans played a college student listening to I Disappear, and Ulrich walks in and asks him for an explanation. He responded to Wayne's excuse that using Napster, it's just sharing, man, by saying that his idea of sharing was borrowing things that were not yours without asking. He called in the Metallica road crew, who proceeded to confiscate everything that Wayne's had in the skit, leaving him almost naked. And then the Napster creator, Sean Fanning, responded later in the ceremony by presenting an award wearing a Metallica shirt that read, "I borrowed this shirt from a friend. Maybe if I like it, I'll buy one of my own." So Ulrich was later booed on stage at the award show when he introduced Blink-182 later that night.
Huh.
So, yeah, they didn't do well on this. This is not, like, going to make them look good.
That's what I'm saying. You kind of blew opportunity for you to go. I mean, because, hell, what if they didn't do that? How much more popular are they now?
Yeah. I mean, they're still very popular, but
they still are.
That definitely was not a good idea.
Yeah.
And then in 2001, the beginning of the new millennium, Jason Newsted left the band. He just said, in quote, "Private and personal reasons, my physical damage I've done to myself over the years while playing the music that I love is the reason why." So, end quote. He wanted to release an album with a side project called Echo Brain. You might know Echo Brain from You Don't Know Echo Brain because it didn't turn into anything.
It didn't.
Hetfield was pretty pissed about it. He said, when someone does a side project, it takes away from the strength of Metallica.
You know what? I was like that. I'm not like that now. I used to be like that with my band.
Oh, really? Like it's cheating on your
Well, it's not really
wife?
cheating. It's if you have the time to be able to go do other things and take away from that, like, why are you not taking that effort and putting it into the product that we're trying to make? That's the way I always looked at it. Like, so pretty much I'm doing all the work and you have the ability to help take some of the workload off of me, but you're not going to. You're going to take all that effort and throw it elsewhere. So I get where Hetfield stands on that.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, you want your main focus to be here. It's not like Newsted's been doing this with them for that long. Like,
right.
he was with Flotsam and Jetsam, but, like, really. But by April, filmmakers Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky began following Metallica to record a documentary for their next album.
Yep.
Over the 2 years they record over 1,000 hours of footage. They are about to enter the recording studio, and Hetfield had to enter rehab to treat his alcoholism and his addictions. So it followed the complete rock star path. All recording plans are put on hold. The band's future goes in doubt again.
He goes missing. He goes missing for over a year with no contact to anybody.
Really?
Yeah. Have you ever watched
That was July. No, I didn't get to watch that one, though.
It's a good one, dude. Like,
I know he came back he left rehab in December of 2001, so that's where he was during like 9/11 and everything. That's where Hetfield was. The band returns in 2002, and he was required to limit his work to 4 hours a day between noon and 4, spend the rest of his time with his family. So you can see things start to pile up on the band at this point. They're just tired. Like, it seems like they have so much. They're leaving that early stage of their life, and they have to start making changes. Or else they're not going to be around anymore. The documentary in name is called Metallica, Some Kind of Monster. So you said you have seen it.
I've seen it. It's great, dude. It's a great watch.
I might have to watch it sometime because in the documentary, Newsted said his former bandmate's decision to hire a therapist to solve their problems, which he felt they could have solved on their own, was really fucking lame and weak.
Yeah.
I don't really agree with that. Sometimes you need someone.
therapy.
Yeah, like, it's not lame to get therapy, guys. Like.
And another note on Newsted, too. So I've actually heard other things, too, where he felt like he was just underappreciated, and they always kept trying to compare him to Cliff. What would Cliff do? What would
That'd
Cliff
be
do?
hard.
Yeah, and he understood in that position that he did have gigantic shoes to fill. But the point was he was doing his best, and he never got appreciated for anything. He didn't get any writing credits. He didn't get all of these things. He was just their bass player. He didn't feel like he was one of the guys. He didn't.
And you know
feel
what?
like
When you look at like Metallica, he just feels like an era of Metallica. He's not like, and that sucks to say because he was on probably more recordings than Cliff was.
Yeah.
So
and I thought he was
he was. He's a great bass player.
I thought he was a great addition. It was crazy when I was like, where's that guy at?
I mean, I'm not sure if he was on the last one, but I'm sure he's happy he wasn't on their 8th studio album, Saint Anger. Debuted at number 1. Not as popular with critics.
It's a Frankenstein album.
Jeez, yeah, steely sounding snare drums.
It was all experimental. That's the only reason I know so much about this is because I watched the movie. So this was the first album that, and I call it a Frankenstein album. They didn't necessarily refer to that, but I called it. So what it is they got Bob Rock. Mm-hmm. They were in a room, and what it was just them. They would wake up, they would go to this room, and if Kirk was feeling a riff, he would play the riff, and they would constantly be recording, and then they would blend it. So Kirk would have this riff, and then Lars would mess around on the drums, because like I said, Hetfield's gone at this point, so it's pretty much just these two dabbling, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just messing around, and that's what they did. Well, I like this drum with this guitar. We're going to put it here. This is going to be the chorus. This is going to be the verse. That's pretty much how they made the entire album, was just they took a bunch of different pieces, put it together, bam, that's a song.
Oh, yeah, they messed up on this one. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, there's a few songs I like on it, like Frantic, Saint Anger itself, which won a Grammy Award. They did win them a Grammy for Best Metal Performance in 2004.
It's actually, again, I ain't dead yet.
I was going to say, oh, dude, shoot me. Dude, I do like singing it, but no, that's not very good. It was used as the official theme song for SummerSlam, WWE SummerSlam 2003. Saint Anger was. It sounds like they're beating on trash can lids. Yeah, it really does. Like,
to this day, people still make fun of his snare drum.
Yeah, it's just not very. It's so steely and metallic, which makes sense with Metallica, but it was so raw. Like, and it's raw, but not in the good way I would want. There's something about that album I just could not get into. Bob Rock played bass on the album.
He did, because they did not have a bass player at the time.
They had no bassist. But then once the record was completed, they did go and find a new one. After 3 months of auditions, they picked the former bassist of Suicidal Tendencies and Ozzy Osbourne's band, which was Robert Trujillo. Yep. And he, as far as I know, he's still the bassist today.
He is, yeah. Lars was blown away because one of the songs, they asked him in one of the auditions, they go, what song do you want to play? And he goes, oh, Battery. And Lars stops and goes, you can play that with your fingers? And he's like, yeah. And he goes, let me see it. And then they played it and blown away. I think that locked Lars in for his decision.
Yeah, Newsted went and joined Voivod, I believe was the name of the band. So good riddance, Newstead. I mean, not good riddance. I did like you, but like good luck.
He actually
with
made
everything.
his own band actually called Newstead too. I think
Did
that's
he?
what he's doing now. Is
Oh.
he's in a band called Newstead.
Yeah. So then they would go to the Download Festival in 2004, where Ulrich was rushed to the hospital after having an anxiety seizure, and he was unable to perform. So I didn't know that until we started going into this. So they had to find someone to replace Ulrich, and they got two volunteers for that. Do you know who they are?
I know who ended up filling in. I don't know who the other two.
The drummer of Slayer, Dave Lombardo, and the drummer of Slipknot.
Joey Jordison, and he got the job.
And they Lombardo performed Battery and Four Horsemen. Ulrich's drum technician performed Fade to Black, and Jordison performed the remainder of the set.
Yep.
So it showed that Lars isn't like necessary, I guess. Like Lars is my least favorite member. I'm going to be honest with you.
He is.
Like he's just kind of a tool bag
just a
sometimes.
douche.
Yeah. Nothing against it, Lars. If you do listen to this, I still would like free tickets to any Metallica show you have. Yeah.
You gonna sue me, Lars?
Yeah.
Just kidding.
We're not Napster. Leave us alone. So yeah, they went touring for a long time. They did the Madly in Anger with the World tour with Godsmack in support of them.
Dude,
I remember that tour. I wanted so bad. I remember being 14 years old.
Dude, can you imagine? That'd be a hell of a concert.
Yeah, I was so pissed. I asked my mom, like, can I go see that tour? She's like, no, Jess, I don't think so. I'm like, dude, these are my two favorite bands. Just let me go see them. I have seen both of them since then. As you saw, I saw Godsmack according to this thing finally, but I did see Metallica at some point in 2013. Then they took a break and spent time most of 2005 away, which is probably good for them. And that kind of ends that era. I feel like
they finally get out of that weird grunge type era. God, it was such a weird era.
It was. I did like it, but it was something new. And then the day that never came was the fact that they would make another album. But before that, they changed their producer. Goodbye, Bob Rock. Hello, Rick Rubin. So Rick Rubin, if you don't know who he is, he was a co-founder of Def Jam Records. So, yeah, producer, executive, like makes a lot of good music as well as Bob Rock did. And then they wanted to prohibit, like there was a petition going around to encourage the band to prohibit Rock from producing Metallica albums, saying he had too much influence on their sound and musical direction. People did not like Bob Rock at the end of it. Like, he was not popular with the fans. They were like, dude,
yeah, you allowed them to put out Saint Anger. You let this band that you created with the Black Album that I guess people still hated, but then like I feel like they went down. That was a fall for them. They were
they're back. They're going down And Bob Rock said it hurt his children's feelings. The petition, and he said, end quote, sometimes even with a great coach, a team keeps losing. You have to get new blood in there. So that doesn't sound like accountability to me. He thinks he's a great coach, and he's just like not able to help them. So
yeah,
I mean, honestly, fuck off, Bob Rock, if you want my honest opinion there. Then they released a DVD titled The Videos from 89 to 2004. Just a bunch of videos.
I own that DVD.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do.
And that's where the Ecstasy of Gold's on. And then the days and years keep going until they finally release their album, Death Magnetic. I remember waiting for it.
That album, dude. That's a good album.
It is a great album. It's September 12, 2008 it came out, so it was right after we graduated high school. They filmed a music video for the first single called The Day That Never Comes.
Yep.
Great song. What was your favorite songs from there?
So my favorite one, Cyanide. That's my favorite song on that album.
Good. I remember you loved that song.
Dude.
Ding, ding, ding.
Dan, 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 bow, bow, bow. That is my favorite song on that album. But that album is just another one front to back that's really really amazing. And I know once again I felt like I was living my era of the Black Album when this one came out, because everyone was just like, dude, that album sucks. It's overproduced. It's blah blah blah. And I said, look, man. I said, this is the reality situation when you break it down from a musician's perspective. Is okay. It's not thrash, but look at it. These guys are older now. Mm-hmm. I think they had to have been, late 40s.
Yeah.
When this album came out, you know what I mean? They've already been doing this forever. Like, and not only that, but the technology that we have nowadays, they're not recording like on a recording device from the 1980s no more. They're recording through a computer where they can tighten everything up. Everything, they can play the same thing. They don't have, oh, you only got like 2 more tries to get this, or else we're gonna have to re-scrap and start all over. They can take as much time on it and make it as tight and as they want. And with all the extra stuff you can throw into like a whole recording thing, of course it's gonna sound new and modern.
Yeah, you can't have this. Like, you're not going to get that sound.
You're not going to. You can't. I don't think I've heard anything today of recent recordings that could even like emulate something from the 80s. Because in the 80s and the 90s, it was pure raunchiness. It was
dirty.
Yeah, it was
Raw.
more dirty.
Yeah.
Everything's clean now. So that's why I was like, if you can look past that, this is a great ass album.
It was honestly like, take all that shit out. It's just like, if you heard a new band come out with those songs, you'd be like, dude, that's pretty fire.
Right. But because it was Metallica, they were like, ooh.
Yeah, people will find a reason to bitch about anything. But by 2009, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
There it is. I remember that.
And they even brought Jason Newsted back for that. So
Yep.
Loved it. Initially, it was announced that the matter had been discussed and that Trujillo had agreed not to play because he wanted to see the Black Album band. However, the band's set of Master of Puppets, they played Enter Sandman. They were both on stage for that. And Ray Burton, the father of Cliff Burton, accepted the honor on his behalf as well, which was really cool.
That's really awesome.
Although he was not to be inducted with them, they said. Metallica invited Dave Mustaine to take part nonetheless.
Yep.
So he declined because he was touring in Europe, but by that point, fences had been mended. Seemed like everyone was good again.
They actually talk about that in that movie.
But yeah,
like during that rough time,
about Mustaine.
Lars and Mustaine actually sit face to face, and you can feel the tension.
I bet he was like, but by this point, it looked like they were still good to the where they wanted to bring Mustaine back for the which is really cool. And then eventually they play on the same bill one last time. Metallica, Slayer, Megadeth, Anthrax. They played in 2010 at Warsaw Airport in Poland as part of the Sonosphere Festival. So that was the first time they had ever all four performed on the same bill. So that would have been really, really cool to watch. Then they kind of did like a world tour for quite some time. The World Magnetic Tour is, I believe, what it was called.
That's when I saw them.
You did see them, yeah.
Yep. That was cool. They were with Lamb of God.
So with that, how was your festival experience with that badge, with Metallica? Not festival, but concert experience.
Concert, it was sweet. It was, it's something that I always want to see Metallica, and I always knew I wanted. I was like, I gotta at least see them once.
Yeah.
And I knew, all right, these guys are getting old. Like, it took a long time for this album to come out, So when I got to see them, my cousin was like, hey, dude, you want to go see Metallica? And I was like, yes. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Why wouldn't I? I mean, tickets were a lot.
Shut up and take my money.
They were like $90 back in 2009. So, I mean, nowadays, that's like $150, $160? Maybe not. But give or take, probably.
Inflation's a bitch.
Yeah, it is. So I got to see it. It was cool, though. I mean, very unique. I don't like Lars. The way he does his performance live is annoying, dude. But they sounded great though. It was sweet. They had the coffins on each corner. So I saw them at Van Andel. They had a big weird. It was like a rectangle stage, but it had little pieces on each corner that kind of went out a little bit further. And on each one of those corners, they had gigantic coffins hanging from the ceiling. So, yeah, that was cool. And the coffins would move and sway and stuff. But
I remember you sending me, like, while you were at the concert, you're like, hey, man, listen, it's Metallica in the background. And we had our shitty cell phone, so I just hear... I'm like, that's so cool, dude. I remember...
sounds just like the album.
Dude, I remember where I was. I was in, like, a Subway eating subs. I'm like, that's cool. And I, like, hung up the phone. My wife's like, hey, is everything all right? She wasn't my wife at the time. I'm like, yeah, he's just listening to Metallica. It's cool. Yeah. I'm here eating Subway, so...
And he's watching Metallica.
That's my sweet and sour teriyaki chicken fell to the floor. I was just, damn. But they eventually, in 2012, do make a new music festival. They tried to make their own called Orion Music Plus More. So the first one was held in, I believe, Charlotte, South Carolina, maybe? Looking at it, no, not even fucking close. It was held at Atlantic City, New Jersey. So
okay,
nowhere near where I just said.
Nowhere near.
But yeah, they had Metallica, Modest Mouse, Eric Church, the country singer. Weird. Arctic Monkeys, Cage the Elephant, Avenged Sevenfold, Volbeat, Gary Clark Jr. Like tons of different music. Suicidal Tendencies, Sepultura.
Festival.
Yeah, I didn't see that one. the second year they did it in 2013, they decided, and this is the last year, because apparently they lost a lot of money on these festivals. They decided to rent out Belle Isle in Detroit, and they did a music festival on Belle Isle. The first one I ever went to, music festival wise, and it was fucking awesome, man.
Yeah.
It was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rise Against, Dropkick Murphys, Deftones, All Shall Perish, Metallica themselves, yeah. And then tons of other bands that were like Bass Nectar, like just tons of different types of music. And actually, throughout the festival, when I saw them, they had a band called Dahan that was going to play on one of the small stages one of the days. And if you weren't at the stage when they came on, it was just whatever. Well, Dahan was a secret name for Metallica. They went out there and played their whole goddamn album, like from, I think, Ride the Lightning. I think they played the whole Ride the Lightning album as Dahan.
Cool as hell.
And if you look
nobody
at it,
knew.
No,
Nobody knew.
unless you were standing there, and then they come on this small little stage where they're as close as me and you to each other, and they're playing like Ride the Lightning. It's like, dude, that is awesome. I wish I would have seen it. I was not there to see that part because I was probably drinking like a Red Bull or something somewhere.
Oh.
So that one really hurt. But I did see them like later that night, and it was amazing. Like fireworks, like Battery was awesome. Oh, I loved it.
That's sweet.
But Dahan, the reason they called it that is because they had a new like movie kind of documentary thing out called Through the Never.
Through the Never, yeah.
And it starred the star of the show is Dane DeHaan, the actor. That's why they named it that. So kind of cool. I realized that after I was able to piece it together. But yeah, did miss that. But then, like I said, the Orion Festival was not a huge success financially. As cool as it was, that was the last year they were ever going to do it. They even said, they're like, this costs a lot of money. We're going to try and come back next year. They didn't come back next year.
They didn't.
No. So,
which is funny because, I mean, I'm sure those cost a lot of money, but you're Metallica.
I think they footed the whole bill, though. Like, they didn't get
That's
tons
true,
of sponsors.
yeah.
Or anything. Like, they had a whole museum based around, like, Kirk Hammett loves movie monsters. Come look at this movie monster museum of all this random shit.
Right.
And then they had
probably
like
just did it wrong.
Yeah, a tribute to Cliff Burton. Like, that was awesome to see. A huge car show. Like, they had tons of stuff.
Loves cars.
Yeah, he loves cars. So it was like things that were important to the band.
Yeah.
Which was really cool. And then they eventually go and make a... So before I get to that, I should probably tell you about it. So they did a show called Freeze 'Em All. Did you hear about this in 2013? So they went and played in Antarctica, becoming the first band to play on all 7 continents.
What?
They are the first band to play on every continent in the world.
That's weird. I never heard of
Yeah,
that.
they did. It's called Freeze 'Em All. They filmed it and released a live album the same month.
What?
Yeah, it's fucking cool, isn't it? Like, they went and played in Antarctica to nobody. I mean, maybe the people who work there. I don't know.
Well, that's still why.
To be the first band to play on all 7 continents, probably.
Right. That's just that's crazy. That must have sucked.
Yeah. So they did the Through the Never, like I said, DVD, and then they did a new album called Hardwired to Self-Destruct.
Yep.
What do you think about that one?
I thought it was a decent album. Because was it a 2-piece album?
I don't think so. It was their 10th album. I'm not gonna lie.
All I know is
I've never really listened to the whole album.
No, I've tried. I mean, I know there's 2 songs I know for sure that I have in my playlist, and that would be Atlas Rise and
Atlas Rise, I've heard.
Moth into the Flame.
Muffin Flame?
Moth into Flame.
Oh, I'm like, dude, they did not name a song Muffin Flames.
Like, Moth into the Flame.
I don't know how to bake.
They're good. I think you would like those. Actually, they're groovy. Like I said, I can't. I don't give the. They're not. It's not an album that I'm gonna go like
ham for.
Yeah, but they had some good ones on there. Actually, they performed. I believe it was Moth into Flame with Lady Gaga at
really
at a music festival, or it was like some kind of an awards thing. Yeah,
dude, I love like Lady Gaga's really got my.
Hetfield hated it.
Really?
He said he'll never perform. He'll never allow like
someone else to do.
Yeah, to do that. He just said. He said it was nothing against her. It was just really weird because of, I think she just kept getting in his personal space a lot.
I think she just does that. That
yeah,
sounds like her thing.
Yeah, she was just like getting in his face and like touching cheeks with him and then singing in the same mic, and he was just like, "What was going on?"
Yeah, it doesn't seem like something he's into.
Yeah.
She's like doing the "I'm on the deep end," and he's like, "Dude, what the fuck is going on, man?" But then they go and make S&M 2. which I didn't realize they had made that, but they did a whole nother thing with the symphony. And then another album called 72 Seasons.
Yes, 72 Seasons is good. I feel like 72 Seasons brings back, it's very thrashy.
Yeah, I see, and I haven't listened to a new album in so long. Like, for me, Metallica stopped at Death Magnetic. Like, that was the last one I ever, like, paid attention to.
Yeah, 72 Seasons. So actually, because you know how TC's input on Metallica is, I was playing a song and he was like, "Is that old Metallica?" I go, "No, this is like they just released this." He was like, "No shit." He goes, "That sounds awesome."
Because they have the single from that was Lux Eterna.
Lux Eterna, yeah.
I was gonna say
Lux Eterna. It's
that
great.
I know.
Yep.
And then they did Screaming Suicide, I think was the other one that came from that one.
See, I like Room of Mirrors. If Darkness Had a Sun. There's one. I don't know if it's 72 Seasons or not. I can't remember. I'm not that familiar with the new album. But Lux Eterna is definitely probably my favorite on that album.
Okay. So, obviously, like we said, the style of the band is like thrashy speed, but they change throughout the times.
Yeah.
Not a lot of bands can say they did that successfully, I guess to say. So with that, they become super influential with multiple decades of people. I know Jonathan Davis of Korn said he respects them as his favorite band. He said, and quote, "I love that they've done things their own way and they've persevered over the years and they're still relevant. I think they're one of the greatest bands ever."
Yeah.
The drummer of Godsmack, Shannon Larkin, said that they've been the biggest influence on his band, saying they really changed my life when I was 16 years old. I'd never heard anything that heavy. And like you can go on and on with the influences this band has done. Like I said, they are a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame band. They were ranked the third greatest heavy metal band in history by MTV, 42nd by VH1 of the 100 greatest artists of all time, 5th on VH1's 100 greatest artists of hard rock. Like they aren't just like a flash in a pan. They are going to go down as one of the best if not the best of all time to some. So, with that being said, they have gotten a new life, I feel like, as of recently. First, they kind of like stayed relevant in our generation, the millennials that is, with Guitar Hero. So if you've ever played Guitar Hero, I know it's a little bit aged now. You have one that was played in Guitar Hero 3, and I remember you were
I own that game.
tore that game up with.
Dude.
Then you could just download Death Magnetic on Guitar Hero World Tour.
Yep.
Trapped Under Ice. Then they made Guitar Hero Metallica. Like, they just continue to do, like, they continue to reinvent themselves, and that's why they stay around. They were on Rock Band. They are on Fortnite.
Yep.
They just did a whole Fortnite thing where, like, literally you could get a guitar and it's like Ride the Lightning that's playing. It's not even one of their, like, newer albums. This is old Metallica that kids know.
They do they have characters created?
Yeah, you can get their avatars.
Yeah,
on
their
Fortnite.
avatar. Yeah, that's crazy, dude.
Miley Cyrus said she was going to do a Metallica covers album in October 2020. I don't know if she ever did. I think she did Nothing Else Matters with Elton John on piano, which I honestly would be interested in hearing. Also with Chad Smith from Red Hot Chili Peppers on drums and Yo-Yo Ma as a cellist. And I think it was promoted for the tribute album. Yeah, it's a tribute album. It's called The Metallica Blacklist. And it's just a bunch of people doing covers of Metallica, which sounds pretty cool, to be honest. So, like I said, over the years, they've had the feuds. I think they feuded even with Motley Crue.
They did
during the years
because they were both getting popular in the 80s. They were fighting over who was going to be Los Angeles's top band, which is funny because I don't feel like Motley Crue was even relevant by the time Metallica switched to more San Francisco based. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
so I don't know if that because I read up on that. I saw that and I was like, I've never heard of that, so I don't know. I'd have to dig more into that one. But yeah, I did hear that they were both fighting for top metal band of Los Angeles.
jeez, that's weird.
That's just a weird feud to have.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah. I mean, I know Motley Crue's super big in L.A., but like, calm down. They're not even L.A. Like, Metallica went and decided to do San Fran. But by the end of it, like I even said, like today, like I said, our kids love them as well. With Stranger Things, used their song "Master of Puppets" for one of their characters, Eddie, in the last season of Stranger Things that's came out. Yep. Super reinvented that whole concept of Master of Puppets to everybody. Like, they just love that song. My kid loves Master of Puppets.
But you know what's crazy, though, is a lot of the kids, they didn't even know who Metallica was.
No.
And a lot of millennials are like, they did a good job by helping Metallica become famous. I was just like...
Well, no, yeah. Well, see, the thing is that's why they stay relevant. They aren't afraid to take the chance of reinventing themselves. They're not afraid to be called a sellout by putting their song in a TV show that's super popular.
Right.
Look at Kate Bush. She did the same thing in Stranger Things for her Running Up That Hill song.
I guess I don't know what song you're talking about.
Have you ever seen Stranger Things?
No.
That makes it rough to even talk about that. No, so it's a song that there's a part in Stranger Things where the girl goes through, like, one of the characters is like trying to run, and like it's a very intense situation. I'm not going to give anything away for anyone who hasn't seen it. And that song starts playing. It's like the song that's kind of with her character, and I will always think of that song when I see her character now.
Really?
Dude, it's so good the way they played the song with it. But with that, they did the same thing with another character, like I said, Eddie, with Master of Puppets. And he's like the rocker character in the 80s, like, and he is like that song he even plays to help defeat the fucking demon things in the goddamn show.
Huh.
So it's like, dude, that's badass. And of course, like, Metallica's like, hell yeah, man, use our song. So if you ever get a chance, watch that show.
It seems like they kind of chilled out on the ego aspect of whoa.
They did, and see, that's the thing. Like, Napster was a huge loss for them, but they have completely done a spin around on that, and like they're you can find Metallica stuff everywhere. You thought they were selling out Back on the Black album. Mm-hmm. Look at them now. They're selling everything. Like, they got fucking, like, you want little people of Metallica, you're going to get your little people. Like, those little fucking toddler toys, dude. They fucking love them. Like, anything Metallica, you're going to find it. So, like I said, we've gone through some feuds, the styles, the history of Metallica. All in all, end of the show, my favorite band of all time when it comes to heavy metal. Like, they are my favorite. I can be in a mood and listen to any type of era, like, depending on the mood, and I'm just like, you know what, I feel angry today, kill 'em all, it is.
Yep.
Or, hey, I feel really sad today, time to listen until it sleeps. Or, I'm really fucking super happy today, I really am pumped up, I want to drive my car fast, let's listen to Fuel or Motor Breath, let's just do that. So, I mean, you can go anywhere with them. So
you can.
It's really fun. Like, my wife loves Unforgiven 3 from the Death Magnetic album. Yep. She thinks it's one of the prettiest songs she's ever heard. So,
and that was a good, that we didn't really talk really about, like, break the songs or anything with that. 1 and 2 are very, like, one's pretty chill, and then 2, they kind of bring out the more beat,
yeah, it's very
but then 3 is like a complete, like, flip because there's, like, piano and...
Yeah, that's one that she really liked. And it's not like my wife's a huge Metallica fan.
Right.
She's like, dude, I like him because I like you, man.
Yeah.
She doesn't hate him either, but like that song, she's like, hey, let's, like, if I'm playing the music, she's like, don't skip this one.
Yep.
She likes that one, so.
That's good.
And like I said, my kids are getting into it. I hope they will probably still hear Metallica years down when we're old people sitting here, hopefully podcasting to our millions of people, telling you guys about, like, the world. So, no, it's a good wrap up on them. Do you have anything else you want to say about them before we?
Not at all, man. They're one of the greatest bands of all time. I got their damn Ninja Star logo tattooed on my calf.
You heard it here first. Badge has a Ninja Star tattooed on his calf.
So, no, they're definitely they're my top 5 for sure. I mean, probably easily number 2.
Who's number 1?
Absolutely dying.
Sorry, you made that mistake. But yeah, so with that, we're going to end the show. Thank you for listening, and we will be back with a new topic next time. It will not be music related. We are going to dive into the realm of, well, I guess you could say movies, but it's going to be someone that we're going to talk about who is fucking crazy. So stay tuned for next time. With that, I'm Wolf.
I'm Badge.
Wolf out.